Negs and Valuers, how much commission are you leaving on the table? Today I'm joined by Charlotte Jeffrey-Campbell, who is star trainer for estate and letting agents. Charlotte, what are Negs and Valuers leaving on the table commission-wise?
Tons. So either it's because they're new. So if you're new to the industry and you don't understand what questions you're supposed to be asking,
Well, let's be
then
honest, the last few years, we've just been, just been order takers, haven't we?
well, we've been order takers. And I think moving forward into this market, you've got to be creative. You've got to spot opportunities and build your own opportunities. So I think if I look at it from my own perspective recently, so I wanted to buy a property. I rang up to make an offer, to make a viewing. I got an email back saying, "Oh, by the way, do you have a property to sell?" There was no conversation about it. It came by email, even though I rang up to arrange the viewing. At that time, I had a house to sell. I'm also a landlord. I own properties. They've all been remortgaged, and I have changed agents since then. I also have since bought a property, and my partner, who I then married and got had a house to sell, he sold a house. I reckon by not having a good conversation with me at that outset, that client missed, I don't know, 15 grand's worth of income over a few years. So I think we always feel like we are just responding to the customer's needs, but we should be questioning and understanding our customers' needs to be able to offer advice. Nobody wants to be a salesperson. Nobody wants to be sold to, but they genuinely do want advice. I ended up finding my mortgage by Google. Now that's ridiculous, bearing in mind who I am and what I do. I ended up being like everybody else. I searched for Google for my mortgage advisor. And in terms of my conveyancing, I went for the person who was recommended to me because it was easy. So
Is that a lack of training or
I think it's process and training. I think it's a combination of the two because I think computer systems are brilliant. And I worked for what was before Viva in the late 90s. And my job was to persuade people to
must have
sign up
been
and
as a
see.
child?
I was a child. I was a child negotiator. But we tried to persuade people to go from pen and paper and hot boxes to the CRM system. And at the time, it was brilliant because it saved me writing out envelopes. It saved me sticking mini prints on. It saved me spending hours organizing my information. But we've gone way, way too far. And all the skills of proper estate agency have been lost. And often the quality of the information put into the computer system is poor. So what we end up doing, and every trainer will say this because I'm not unusual, we end up interrogating our customer. We blast them a load of information, even if we do that. Like when I mystery shop nowadays, we don't even do that very well because we're so overwhelmed with the number of buyers. We don't need to, but we forget that there's so much business out there that we should be getting. So we've got to go back to, and I know it's an awful phrase and I hate it, the basics, but they are really important. And every time I speak to an estate agent who's over 40, they go, ah, yes, the old days, the good old days.
Well, you actually had a conversation with people
Yeah,
instead of saying, "Do you have a mortgage?"
yeah. Do you need a mortgage?
Well, they're not
Have
even
you got a
asking.
property to sell?
They're not even asking
No, they're
that.
not. They're not. They're missing that. They are. And and I'm not critical. I hate to be one of these trainers who's dismissive of the skill set in the industry because that's not true. There's an awful lot of really, really good agents out there, but I think we're so busy we almost get into bad habits much quicker nowadays. But for me, the basics, are we asking open questions? And I do this in training courses all the time, and I run little sessions with people because obviously able agents online, but I also do training. And in these groups, and I say to somebody, right, Chris, give me an open question. Do you know what? Out of a group of 10, 4 or 5 will still come back with closed questions. It is so deeply embedded in us to be asking closed questions. It's really hard to move away from it.
Okay, so give me some examples of the difference between an open and I'm assuming a closed question.
Yeah. So closed question: have you? Do you? Are you? Can you? Will you?
Which would
So
engender a yes
have
or no question, a
So
yes or no
that's a
answer.
closed question. Exactly. What yes or no answer or one word answer. We need information. So have you got a property to sell is an obvious one. That's a closed question. But if you change that to something like how far have you got with getting your house on the market? That's a much more open question. And you might get all sorts of information from that. So open questions are who, what, when, where, why, how. They're
Mhm.
great open questions. When do you need to move by? What will you do if you don't
Okay.
move by then? That's your time scale.
I'm a big fan of the TEDs, which are a bit
I
softer,
love a TED. Yeah, totally.
which is tell me,
Yeah,
explain to me, or
yes,
describe to me.
yes,
Because again, the problems with the W's is that it feels like you're being questioned.
yes.
What?
TED, tell me a bit about why you're moving. Brilliant. Because that feeling of I want you to sit back, Mr. Client, and I want to hear your story, because it goes back to what we were talking about in a previous video, wasn't it? About stories. Stories are so important. Tell me a bit about why you're moving. Tell me what you've done so far in planning this move. You know, those nice open questions. Tell me a bit about your objectives. Tell me a bit about your dream home. Explain and describe. As an education provider, we write qualifications. So all our qualifications are explain and describe, because they are meant to be the best way of gathering information from somebody.
Top tip for you there. Estate agency is all about building relationships,
Yeah.
which requires, what am I trying to think? Empathy
Yeah.
to ultimately build trust.
Yeah.
Because that's what relationships are about.
Yeah. I don't think, if you're just selling to somebody, that you build a relationship, and that's why we're charging low fees. Now, if that person comes into your office and they need advice and guidance, they've got a deceased estate, or they're struggling. So my in-laws at the moment, they've got a bungalow that they've wanted, a flat they've wanted to sell, they've got a house to sell, they needed some, if they can't sell both, they might need some mortgage. Now, really, it shouldn't be me giving them that advice as their daughter-in-law. It should be, they ought to be able to go to their local estate agent and say, look, I've got this problem. That's where I want to live. This is the help I need. And that agent should be able to go out and say to them, right, okay, John and Barbara, this is what you need to do. These are the steps you should take, like I did that. Now, I'm not sure that that's out there enough, that people get the advice and they feel like they're being given advice. Now, we are and should be professionals. We hear about ROPA, which does my head in. We don't know about ROPA yet. It may or may not come in. But ROPA won't solve our problems unless we as an industry feel like we are professional and we are advice givers. And that's the most important element. So empathy is knowing that this couple need help and guidance, and offering the best solution for them. And the best estate agents might not try and get that property on the market now. They might wait until it's right for them. And that's empathy. That's key. And then that builds trust.
Which is ultimately people only do business with people they trust.
Well, and trust, I mean, and people say about liked, don't they? People only do business with people they like. I think that's nonsense. I don't care if I like you or not, Chris. But
Whether
at the
you
end of the
trust
day,
you.
I'm trusting that you're
You
a
don't
good
have to.
interviewer and you can do this
You,
professionally.
you don't have
Yeah.
to like your lawyer
No,
to trust them that
no.
they'll get you.
I didn't like my divorce lawyer. No, he was useless. But then again, same thing. When I got divorced years ago, I'm not an expert in divorce law.
No.
And I sat in those meetings and I came out as an intelligent woman going, what the hell happened there? No idea. I think our customers sometimes feel like that about us, that we are jargon and gobbledygook, and we talk all these phrases, and we all sound a little bit the same.
Yeah.
And we don't trust. And then when we find an agent we do trust, we're with them for life.
If you think about it, only 1 in 8 people go back to the agent they bought their house off. And
Yeah.
since lockdown, half of the houses that have sold, they've only been in the house 6 years, 4 months.
Yeah,
Can you
which is
believe that?
nothing. I know, it's crazy.
Crazy.
But it's understandable, isn't it? Because we're much more transient as a society. We want to move. But I think the opportunity for agents to be that agent of choice and that ambassador for advice and service is really key.
Any final thoughts about leaving commission on the table?
So I think ultimately you've got to know how to sell your services to the person you're talking to.
Or get them to buy off you, because I'm a huge believer in buying versus selling. But go on, sorry,
Yes,
I
yeah,
jumped in.
no, you're right. So you've got to build that relationship that there's no sell or buy involved. It's just you've worked together to come to a decision that is the right plan for that customer. That's ultimately what our goal is. But if you don't understand what makes your business different, and you don't understand your properties and how they stand out and how you appeal to your customer, then how can you sell effectively? And yes, I do want people to buy from us, but ultimately we are in a business of being salespeople. We are rewarded for
You have
selling and
something to
commission.
sell.
We have something to sell.
Don't necessarily have to sell it.
No,
Get
we
them to
don't have
buy
to
it
be
off you.
salespeople. We have to be expert advisors. And I think benefits is really sitting down with your team and understanding what the difference is. And, sitting down with your team and saying, what fees should we be charging? If your team don't believe in the fact that they are different, something as simple as property management. I know some agents will do routine inspections 6 monthly, some 3 monthly, some annually. Do you know what your competitors do differently from you? Do you know if there's just an answer phone message for the out of hours care? Well, that agent with an answer phone message might be 7%. You might be 10%, 12%, but you've got somebody on hand or on call, and you've got good relationships with contractors. If you cannot explain and articulate that clearly, that difference, then how on earth are you going to get your fees up? So for me, the understanding the benefits of what makes you different is really, really important. And it being tripping off the tongue, and that passion in your team that absolutely sings about why you're different, and that's demonstrated from first contact.
Thank you very much, Charlotte.
Welcome.